Hello, and welcome to the Calmcast, a time to feel calm and think clearly. I'm Claire Downham, the Queen of Calm, a transformational life coach. I was a burnt-out head teacher who finally made the journey to calm after years of trying, and I want to prevent you from having to do the same. The Calmcast is a series of short explorations, gently guiding you back to your natural state, which is calm and clarity. Just listen like you would listen to music, with an open mind and curiosity. There's nothing else to do. Now let's relax into today's episode. So, hi there. This is a really interesting episode, and it's kind of making me smile because probably should have done it a while ago, but I didn't. Because I speak about this thing called the three principles, and until now hadn't done much explicitly talking about the three principles, which is bizarre when I think about it. And it's because really, as a three principles teacher, that isn't really what you do. You don't teach people the three principles and sit them down and go, well, these are the three principles, and then expect that there'll be some kind of miraculous transformation for them. You talk about the implications of the three principles. And I do that in all the content that I share. What I'm teaching really is the implications. So because of these three principles, this is how life turns out. And that when you understand that more deeply, you can just have a better experience of life. And I think that's pretty much what we all want, isn't it? Like how I've titled this, what are the three principles and why do they bring more ease to your life? Is it that is what the transformational conversation in the three principles brings about, is more ease, really. Just a nicer life, just everything feeling a lot lighter. Like a client of mine said that a couple of weeks ago. She just said, everything feels a lot lighter. And I just thought, that's perfect, absolutely perfect. So what are the three principles? Let's start. I'm going to, otherwise, if I don't crack on and do it now, you know what's going to happen. I'm going to get to the end and I've forgotten to mention the three principles. So I'm going to start a bit with the history, really, of the three principles. So the three principles began to come into being 50 years ago, when a man called Sydney Banks had a realization. He was just having a chat to somebody, and somehow he picked up from this this wasn't exactly what the man said to him, but he was talking about insecurity with this man, and they were both saying how insecure they were, and he would, they were comparing insecurity notes on who was the most insecure, I think. And somehow in that conversation, something was said around thinking that you're insecure. And Sydney Banks came to the realization that he wasn't really insecure, he just thought he was. And that thought was a big aspect of why we feel the way we feel, why we think. Well, obviously that's our thinking. It's why we see the way we see things, the way we see them. It's about how our perspective is created and all of those things. And then over time, the other two principles were kind of, it was seen that it wasn't just thought on its own, that the other two principles were also at play. So the three principles are thought, and thought with a big T, as in a universal sense of all part of this connectedness, really. And I'll come on to that when I talk about the other principles. There's something about those magical ideas that we get, those times when it seems that people around the world unite in their thinking and things begin to change. And then there's our personal thinking with a little t. And that, of course, is is the stuff that, I have to be honest, gets me into the most trouble in my life. When I believe it, fundamentally, when I believe it, when I believe my thinking is true, especially if I'm in a wound up state or an upset state or an anxious state or an angry state or a frustrated. That's probably my go-to, emotion is is being a little wound up, and a little bit frustrated with other people as a rule. So that our personal thinking and really within that, the realization that it is our personal thinking that's creating all the things that we think are problems in our lives. That there isn't out there. It isn't out there. So that's the first principle. The second principle, I don't even know whether they're numbered 1, 2, 3. I'm just going to talk about them in the order that I'm talking about. So consciousness. The reason that you can perceive me isn't just because of your senses, it's because you're conscious, you're aware, you're in this world. Um, you're connecting to what's coming in from around you. You're conscious of it. And I would say, like, if you call that consciousness or awareness or whatever you call it, that's what I think. I don't like it to sound comparative, but that's what rises when I spend time with people. There comes about this increase in awareness of our own thinking, increase of awareness of how we're working. And as a result, we can begin to become more of the chooser of our thoughts, not in a very deliberate, not in a positive psychology kind of way, but more in just from the place of awareness, from that place of consciousness, we begin to see things differently, and then we begin to make different choices. It's just that simple, really. Whether that's a choice in behavior, a choice in thought, a choice in what we say, there begins to be more choice when we're more conscious. And then the third principle is known as mind in the three principles conversation. But what that really means is universal intelligence, universal mind, universal aliveness, universe, energy, God. I don't know. That you can call it what you like, really. It's this sense that we're alive, that we have this aliveness running through us that is the same. I keep looking out the window because the outside is out of the window, but the aliveness that has everything coming to life this morning on a is it summer yet? Not quite. On a spring morning in the UK. And these three principles sort of work together to create our experience. And for me, the awareness piece is where I'm looking to help people. Now, so that's the three principles. And you will have noticed, if you've been listening to me for a while, or even if you've just started listening to me, that I don't really explicitly talk about them very often. I do talk about thought probably more than the others, and I do talk about awareness when I talk about becoming more aware and becoming a non-judgmental, being in this place of non-judgmental awareness of how we are in the moment, but not taking it personally. And I do talk about mind when I say that, you're not your thinking and your feelings anyway. All of that is just superficial psychology. Like if we could just all see that we're not our psychology, which brings about our feelings, like that's where they come from. They don't come from anywhere out there in the world. They come from inside. That can bring a lot of ease. So I'll share a little bit about what I've noticed in myself and what I'm noticing too in my clients in terms of how the understanding of the three principles brings more ease into your life. But first of all, why principles? Why are they principles? Well, they're principles because they're truths and because they're universal. a bit like gravity. I think gravity is probably my favourite analogy for this, is that you've learnt to understand gravity. Now, if you've spent any time with small children, you'll know that they're not very good with gravity. They don't really understand it's there. And so as a result, they tend to throw things and drop things and make a mess with the food because they don't understand that there's a universal truth called gravity. Now, what happens to young children as they get older is they through that repeated experimentation of throwing and dropping and trying it in lots of different spaces with lots of different objects, they become much more familiar with gravity, and they also they get this kind of deep embodied understanding of gravity, which is why, if I pick up my mouse, I know not to just like let it go and drop to the floor. I know to put it down carefully, otherwise I'll have a broken mouse. Well, more than likely. um, but I don't think, "Oh, there's gravity. Oh, it's working today. I have to think about that." I don't go around my life thinking you don't either, I'm sure, go around thinking unless you're a physicist and you spend a lot of time thinking about gravity, you won't be, thinking about it, you'll just be doing it. And so that's what happens when we understand principles. Like, your life is easier because you deeply understand gravity. Like, you're not walking around clearing up rubbish off the floor that stuff you've broken, and you're not having to kind of make more money so you can, buy new things because you keep breaking things, and you don't have to pad your house out because you've got all this problem with breaking things. That's really helpful. And so these three principles work in a similar way in that when you know how something works, you just navigate around it all a lot easier, and everything just become more full of ease. And what can that look like? So let's go on to that now. What does that look like? So that looks like, for me, almost like this awareness, really, that there are certain trains of thought that make me feel bad. For me, the trains of thought that used to trip me up were usually often around other people and why they don't live their life Claire's way. Which which I say with a laugh now, but I definitely used to believe that that was the case. Um, that Claire's way was the right way and other people were wrong if they weren't living their life Claire's way. Um, so there's a lot more ease just around, like, I kind of would say that in the past, the ranting about other people's behavior would go to 10 out of 10 very quickly, and I would be ranting, and I'd feel terrible inside, and I'd feel angry and wound up, and, and now I kind of notice it at a much lower level, like it's 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10, and a lot of the time I just think, "Oh, I can't be bothered." Like, somebody close to me, um, didn't do something I wanted them to do on Monday, and I just didn't get upset about it. Like, Now that doesn't mean that I put up with stuff. I don't, if somebody's really being out of order, I will say something to them nicely, but I will say, but nicely. Like on Monday, I was actually on the radio. I was on Radio Leeds on Monday, and the man asked me, "What's the top?" I was talking about exam stress for parents, and the guy said, "What's your top tip for parents who are trying to navigate round their teenage children and around this exam issue and trying to, not lose the plot?" And I said, "Well, don't talk to your teenage child while you're wound up. Like, notice what's happening in your body. Notice if you're feeling angry, and don't engage. Wait till you're calmer. You still, when you're calmer, might want to say, 'Hey, come on, you've been on your Xbox too long. Please just go and do a bit of revision.' but you will do that you'll connect better to that other person from that place. So that's been huge for me. Other people really aren't quite so annoying anymore. So that's fundamentally it. But everything else in my life, my relationship with my business, with my fiance, with my children, with my remaining parent, who's my mum, by the way, everything just has more ease around it. Nothing feels hard anymore. And I was thinking the other day when I was thinking about stress and how, like, I was so stressed I burnt out, as you probably know if you've been following me for a while, how I can't be bothered to get. In fact, it's not I can't be bothered. I just don't know how, and that's huge for me because if you are connect, if you've been listening to me, you'll know what my story is. I was so stressed out and so unaware of how stressed out I was that I burnt out and didn't work for a year. And I don't know why it's emotional today. Is there a moon doing something? I generally find that I'm a bit emotional. There's a moon about to do. Is it nearly the full moon? I think it is, isn't it? But that was ridiculous. I had no idea. I was so stressed. I got really ill. And now I don't know how to get stressed. And the other thing that's really huge, which I'm going to mention, I know this is a bit longer than normal, but I don't care. The other thing is that I'm really like, I'm having a little cry this morning. That doesn't make a change really, does it? But I don't care. I have feelings still. Stuff comes up for me, but it lasts such a short time because really a feeling lasts 90 seconds until we get involved and start judging it and saying it's wrong and taking it personally and seeing it as a problem. Like that realization that a feeling isn't a problem at all, ever, no matter how horrible it is. And I'm not saying I like feeling angry or upset or whatever. But that is freedom. And that is freedom from mental illness. I'm going to boldly say that. That once you're okay with your feelings, there is no mental illness. There's just feelings. And they last a very short time. And they're all okay. So I hope you found that helpful. As well as this, you can listen to lots of my other sessions. There's lots of topic specific things. And, reach out if you're ready to have more ease in your life in the most simple and beautiful way, in a beautiful transformative conversation. I now have 2 courses on Insight Timer, Calm, Balance and Clarity with Ease, and Revealing Your Potential. They're both available, so please do check those out too. I hope you found that really helpful. Take care and lots of love. Thank you so much for listening. There's nothing to do now but bring some awareness to how this is working out in your life. Listen regularly to experience longer and longer periods of calm. This has been the Calmcast with Claire Downham, Queen of Calm. Take care and keep listening.